Well, it's time now for the press review. Reactions continue to flood in through the world's papers today after Italy took a sharp turn to the far right in its elections. Deeptika Laurent is here to break it down for us. Deepti, what have you found this morning?
Well, that's right, Erin. The election of Giorgia Meloni, the far-right leader in Italy, continues to dominate the papers across the world this Tuesday. This is an editorial from Il Manifesto. It's an Italian communist paper, so really on the whole other side of that political spectrum. And it really sees her election, the election of Giorgia Meloni, and the ensuing crisis among the Italian left as a result of, quote, heavy political myopia. The paper says the paper accuses the left essentially of overestimating the international prestige of Mario Draghi, who was running that caretaker government up until elections this weekend. As a result, the paper says it's led to this historical turning point in Italian politics.
And Dipti, that shock is also reverberating through the French papers this morning, isn't it?
That's right. We can show you Libération. That's the French left-leaning paper here. It says in its headline that all fears lead to Rome, not all roads, but all fears lead to Rome. And the paper really picking up on the anti-Europe angle there. The fear of obviously being that this is a Eurosceptic party, the Brothers of Italy coalition. And a picture indeed speaks 1,000 words, Erin, and you see that. That's a picture of Giorgia Meloni on Libération's front page, a very unflattering portrait of her laughing, almost demonically, you could say. So certainly Libération is not hiding its deception or its disappointment in her election. L'Humanité, that is the French communist paper, they are going with a more sober picture on its front page, but one that's nonetheless striking. That's of Emilia-Romagna, a region in Italy that historically voted for the left that has now shifted to the far right. The paper really lamenting that sort of shift to the far right and really showing us quite soberly the impact of this election in Italy. Libération's cartoonist Coco has quite a striking cartoon today, sort of drawing comparisons with the protests by women in Iran burning their headscarves. The headline of this cartoon says, can you spot the error? And the error is right here. That's Giorgia Meloni with her own version of a flame, if you like, that of the far-right flag. Erin.
Okay, Dipti, so we're clearly seeing a lot of panic and anxiety, even a little bit of mockery in the press about Meloni's election. But the Washington Post, for its part, says that this should all be taken with a grain of salt.
That's right. The Post says Meloni founded her party a decade ago on nationalist lines, and it reminds us that her party never really advocated fascism. However, it does say that her party's ties to a party that was founded by supporters of the Italian dictator Benito Mussolini cannot be overlooked. However, they do sort of strike down any comparisons between Giorgia Meloni to Hungary's leader, Viktor Orban, saying that Italy is a very different story. In Italy, for instance, you have a robustly free media. You also have Italy, which has been a Western democracy for decades. So the Washington Post says, yes, her election is perhaps alarming, but it's not as bad as it seems. Her party does not want to end democracy. It wants to, quote, restore Italy's economic freedoms.
We're all talking about the British pound as well, which slid to an all-time low against the dollar briefly, although.
It is making the front pages in the British papers today, as you can imagine, Erin. Let's show you Metro with some kind of sort of fun headlines, if you like. Metro's going with the pound Quatanks, in reference, of course, to Liz Truss's finance minister, Kwasi Kwarteng. The pound did slump to its lowest ever against the dollar after Friday's mini budget, but it sort of has slightly rebounded since then. The Daily Star has a fantastic headline today. Honey, I shrunk the quids, it says on its front page here, really reiterating the criticism against Kwasi Kwarteng, who is called, experts queue up to attack Kwasi's A-level economics. And there's quite a nice cartoon as well from, actually from the Metro's cartoonist, Guy Venables today. This is how bad inflation is now. It's no longer a penny for your thoughts, but a pound for your thoughts, Erin.
Well, that's proof that social media does indeed dictate what's news these days. A year old poll from British polling company YouGov has resurfaced on Twitter and sparked debate.
Yeah, sparked debate, sparked discussion. It's a really weird poll to begin with. I had a very interesting conversation with my colleagues about this one this morning. So the poll, I'm not quite sure why they were polling men and women from Britain and America on this question, but basically about a year ago, just over a year ago, YouGov, which is a British polling company, they put this question to a whole bunch of people in Britain and America, which animal they think they could beat in a fight or defeat in a fight. And the results are quite stunning. Have a look here. So it's quite interesting because the blue points that you see here are British people and the yellow points are American. So you have about 62% and 67% of Americans who think they could beat a rat in a fight. I think what was surprising about that is there's still 30-odd% who think that they could actually not beat a rat in a fight. And as you see, that figure gets lower as you go down here, obviously with gorillas, lions, elephants, and grizzly bears, just under 5% of people think they could genuinely beat those animals in a fight. What was interesting was this one here, this is a chimpanzee. Just about 10 to 20% of Brits and Americans thought they could actually beat a chimpanzee. And one of the experts quoted by the paper reminds us that chimps can, I quote, tear off your face and leave men with a little bit less of their manhood. So certainly not one you want to be coming up against in a fight, Erin,
no,
if you're a man.
Definitely, man or woman, quite frankly. I wouldn't even want to go against my house cat's claws. So I think it's safe to say, leave wild animals alone in the wild.
Yeah, exactly.
Deeptika Laurent, thank you very much. Well, that is all for this edition, but do stay with us. Our Focus Report is coming up in just a few minutes after the break.